Welcome to the Business Pro League podcast. My name is Daniel, and it is my honor today to have Mr. Alex Lau on the call today. Really excited to have this conversation. Alex and I have been working together for close to,
Many years.
I don't know what, 3 or 4 years now
Yeah.
in various capacities. We've probably known each other and so it's been a long journey, but it's been a great journey. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation because Alex, you have quite a unique background really and perspective of business and how you've I guess shifted and moved around in terms of your focus in business. Could you maybe start off by telling us a little bit about your backstory and how you got into business?
Yeah. So, Daniel, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast. And I really appreciate what you're doing in the marketplace and obviously working alongside our business and our personal friendship as well. It has been very fruitful. So, thank you for that. So, for myself, I'm probably I probably have a little bit of a different entrepreneurial story because most people would be like, oh, I started with nothing and then I grew $1 trillion business and now I'm doing this and that and whatnot. Where my story is probably a little bit more ordinary or different, if you will. I actually come from a generational. So if we really wanted to do the math, I'm the fifth generation entrepreneur, if you will, in the family. Interestingly, I'm the only offspring left for the entire family tree. So it is a bit of a mission for myself to keep carrying on that legacy and that business journey for our family. So my story is when you grow up watching your parents do business, you're sitting in meetings, just in that dynamics. My family has built a business out of real estate in Hong Kong. So I was born in Hong Kong, came to Australia in 2002. But sort of, I guess, subconsciously, all this business intellect and language and how you go about cutting deals and selling and all that sort of stuff just sort of inbuilt in me over time. I wouldn't say I've gone through a full-on training or whatever, but when you grow up in that environment, you just have developed a lot of street smart, if you will, in business. So owning a business and becoming a business owner is just comes very natural. I would probably say growing up, probably I've never wanted to be employed. Never wanted a job, and I would probably see having a stable job as a bit of a loss just because of how I grow up. I respect all the professionals out there. I respect people who go to uni, get a full-time job, and sort of settle in with a stable life. I have a lot of respect on that, but I guess my trajectory has always been business.
Mm. And so, what's the major differences that you noticed when coming from a business family in Hong Kong and then coming over to Australia and then starting a business here? Did you notice some major cultural differences in business?
Yeah, so look, like most people, you stumble into your first business, right? Especially in Australia. I was trained. So when I went to uni, I was very into music and the music industry, especially the technical and producing side of things. So I did a couple of years in music production. And then I started going around as a freelancer doing a lot of corporate gigs in AV and staging, lighting, audio, in producing music and recording studios and whatnot, and had my little setup as well. So when you worked as a freelancer like that, obviously in Australia, you got to register an ABN, you got to know how to do invoicing and all that sort of stuff. So that was my start to business out of necessity because I needed to invoice people. I needed an ABN and started there. Yeah, so I did that for maybe about 6, 7 years and realized that this was not the life that I want, even though I was able to achieve a couple of goals that I really wanted to achieve professionally or in that music scene. So producing some pretty high level albums and participating or producing a lot of big scale events. But I just didn't want that life. I didn't want to further develop, like, because the next state, like, if you really wanted to make a business out of that life, you got to be owning warehouses, owning a lot of gear, putting in a lot of hours. And for me, it was more of a glorified blue collar proposition, which I didn't want. So yeah, and then along the way, I guess I realized that I was actually pretty good at marketing, because when you were out there producing content for other people and doing a lot of technical stuff, the natural thing for people to ask is, oh, can you build websites? Do you do video productions? And can you do this and that? Obviously, when you're starting out and just trying to make money, you basically said yes to everything. And then soon you started to realize that I'm actually pretty good at doing this thing called marketing. So after 6, 7 years of just purely technical, we made a conscious decision to become now a marketing firm. And 15 years later, we're still going pretty strong.
Wow, it's been a bit of a journey. So, what was that like having to make that major shift from, I guess, being a primary production based company and then moving into more marketing and that focus? Like, what was that like, and how did that process kind of take place?
Yeah, in marketing or any sort of consulting work or what we would call today like knowledge work, there are a lot of soft skills that you need to have because back in technical days, you just deliver the job, you take all the technical boxes, and it's very measurable,
Hmm.
and you can clearly define what a good job is versus not a versus the other side of the coin. But in consulting and in marketing, it comes down to strategy, how you go about helping your clients understand what it is that they're actually doing. Because in marketing world, there are just so many things, right? Google AdWords and Facebook ads and websites, landing page and CRM, email
Mm,
marketing, all of that stuff. But most of our clients come to us somewhat confused. They're doing one thing and then they're half doubting themselves. Am I doing the right thing? What's out there and whatnot? So a lot of times when you are in marketing, especially in our level, mostly in the consulting level, you need to deploy a lot of soft skills to first and foremost develop rapport very quickly with the client to gain trust, and then secondly to take the strategic approach to really lay out the options in the clearest way possible for them to make informed decisions. And
mhm.
that requires a lot of experience, a lot of hours, a lot of testing and failure as well, and probably stumble into some of the relationships. I mean, navigating through relationships is also challenging as well. So,
Mm.
so yeah,
Yeah, great. And so you went out and found a particular framework. You kind of decided that the best framework for you to use doing
yeah.
your marketing. What was that framework, and how did you come to the decision that was the best framework for you to build your
Yeah.
business on?
Yeah. So the framework that we use or we have decided to use as an anchor point for our marketing services, if you will, is called Story Brand. So it's developed by a gentleman called Donald Miller in the States. So back in 2018, I flew all the way over there, got trained, became a certified guide, what they call basically a certified provider of that particular framework. And then a couple of years ago, our entire agency became a story brand agency, which makes us one of the leading, if not the leading, story brand agency in Asia Pacific. The reason why we love story brand is because of the ultimate goal of achieving clarity. Right. So most people, when we mention story or branding or whatnot, we're always thinking about storytelling as a buzzword, right? So you
Hmm.
go on LinkedIn, you go on Instagram, there are a bunch of gurus out there telling you, you got to tell your story, you got to tell your story, you got to whatever, right? Yes, story works, but the ultimate goal for telling a story for your business the right way is to achieve clarity, because you can go about telling your own story and have Instagram stories or a camera following you through doing vlogs and all that sort of stuff. But if someone, let's say, jumps on your website or look at any of your marketing collaterals, they can't tell what it is that you sell. How is it going to make their life better? And what do they do to actually purchase your products or services? Then all of that storytelling is going to go to the drain, right? So story brand does an amazing job in helping businesses, any business, to find clarity in their communication. And then once you have clarity, the marketing results is just going to happen.
Yeah, clarity seems to be the one of the biggest challenges, especially when you're in that sub $1 million markets. There's a mix
Mm.
of business model and messaging that's all kind of mixed into one, because you're trying to kind of work out
Mm.
who you are, what you do, what you're selling. And sometimes what you're selling can be quite intangible. And what I
Mm.
like about, I guess, the story brand is that it kind of really helps to bring the intangible to become more tangible and
Absolutely.
communicate that in an effective way. Was that how you would describe
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, a lot of like for example, right, a lot of companies out there would throw around words like, "Oh, we're integral, we're honest, and we're very passionate about what we're doing." Right? Now, that's not clarity. That's just aspirational words that anyone can say, right? But if you
Mhm.
so for the purpose of clarity or using StoryBrand as a tool for you to achieve clarity, we want to be landing on tangible promises or tangible values that your clients are getting. So I don't know, a 90-day delivery, that's tangible. Best price
Mm.
guarantee, that's tangible. Or we pick up the phone within 60 seconds, that's tangible, right? So, you to be able to articulate those things so clearly, you need to go through the framework to really understand what your customers really want. How are you
Mm,
going to come in and solve their problems? What are their problems in an external level, internal level, from an emotional point of view? And then how are you going to position your business as the guide instead of the hero
mhm.
to help them win the day, right? So that's a 20-second version of what story brand is.
Yeah, let's chat a bit more about that idea of the guide and the
Mm,
hero, because that's probably, especially in marketing, especially when you build a business, and you've often built your business not necessarily on external marketing. You tend to have built it based on your skill set,
mm,
who you are as a person, maybe your networking. There's businesses that kind of get up to that seven-figure plus stage,
mm.
and it's so easy at that time when it goes to the marketing. It's kind of like they start celebrating who they are and
Yeah,
what they've achieved,
absolutely.
rather than necessarily understanding that hero and guide kind of concept. So,
Mhm.
could you explain a little bit more about why that's important for a business to focus on a hero?
Sure. Okay. So, one of the biggest paradigm shifts in story brand is that we want to spend 100% of our energy as marketers and communicators to position our customers as the hero. So, when you look at
Hmm.
most small business marketing out there, when I say small business, it's basically any company that is less than $20 million in turnover. So, it's a big range there. But any sort of small business marketing that you see out there, probably about 95% of them out there, spend a lot of time talking about this is the award that we've won. This is our amazing
Mm,
product. Here's a white paper of our perfectly engineered whatever gadget. And here's our team photo. Here's our owner and all that sort of stuff, right? Not that those things are not important, right? But to be honest, your customers don't care. Customers are not out there looking for a hero to worship. They're out there looking for a solution to their problems, right? So
mm,
when we say storytelling, if you think of your favorite movie and whatnot, I don't know, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and whatnot, right? The protagonist of the story is always the weakest person in the story. Okay. And
mm,
as a business, you actually don't want to play that role, because once you start singing your own praises in your marketing and say, since 1956, my grandfather started the business, you actually appear to be irrelevant and a little bit insecure, to be honest. Right. So,
mm,
a much better place for you to be from a storytelling point of view is for you to play the guide. So, the smart screenwriters out there, once again, think of your favorite movie, they would introduce a secondary character in the story, and we call them the guide. So in Star Wars is
mhm,
Obi-Wan Kenobi. In Harry Potter is Dumbledore. In Lord of the Rings is Gandalf, right? Now, when you think
mhm.
about it,
Yeah.
those characters has all the experience, all the authority, all the solution to help the hero win the day, right? I know it's a little bit conceptual and philosophical, but in hindsight, your business is much more better positioned from a marketing and communications point of view to play the guide instead of the hero.
Mhm,
And your mission, or what you want to be seen, is that you have a perfect, so you empathize and fully understand your hero's problems, and you have a full package of solution to help your hero win the day. All right. So
mhm,
just to summarize, never ever play the hero in marketing. You want to be playing the
mm.
guide, leading with empathy and authority. And then when you clearly present a solution to solve someone's problem, you're winning half the battle already.
Where does credibility fit in all of this? Because obviously, for these guys, obviously they're very proud of what they've achieved, and for them, they kind of see that those awards and those things or qualifications or whatever
Yeah.
it is that they've achieved makes them feel more credible. And like you said, it's more of a insecurity thing to kind of
Mm.
show. But where do those things lie in this framework?
So one of the things that I always find myself in a boardroom or consulting scenario is basically in a passive aggressive way helping the business owner to have a bit of an ego check, right? And for them to
Hmm.
really realize that, not that they're not important, those accolades
Hmm.
and whatnot, or the authority, not that is, or credibility is not that is not important, but it's just not number one important, right? When we talk
Yeah.
about the guide, there are two things that we want to show, right? One is empathy, and secondly, authority. So in the
Hmm.
authority bucket, yeah, go to town with all the accolades that you have, right? In a helpful way, which I can break down a little bit. But when we say empathy, and I always say to my clients that we always want to prioritize empathy first. It needs to be in that order. when you think about it, you go to a dentist or any professional service, accountant, lawyer, or whatever, right? You go to the dentist, already any dentist under the sun, you already assume that the
Hmm.
dentist has got what it takes to do the job, right? You have
Hmm.
never
Yeah.
ever, when you walk into a dentist or before you walk into a dentist, to do a background academic check on whatever accolades that they've won, right? You go to a dentist already assuming that they've got the authority or the professional
Hmm.
skill sets to do what they're trying to do, right? So,
Yeah.
but what's going to make a difference in a dentist scenario is when your clients walk into the clinic, in their head, they're asking, is this going to be painful? Is this going to be
Hmm.
expensive? Do I feel intimidated in the environment? Does the receptionist have a smile on her face? Right? These are what we
Mm.
call empathy factors that are going to make you look different from the other dentistry down the road. Okay. So when you play the guide, don't discredit your credibility, right? But you
Hmm.
always want to lead or spend 80-90% of your energy leading with empathy to really understand your customers' problems, right? So I still remember, well, I don't remember, but I was doing a little bit of research. Back in the 90s when Bill Clinton was running for president, one of his leading taglines or leading campaign is, I feel your pain, right?
Mm.
I'm in this with you together, right? And that's
Yeah.
probably one of the reasons why that he got elected. So hope
Mm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. That makes a lot of sense. So I guess so moving in from there, how has your business and your company evolved over the last 5, 6, 10 years that you've
Mm,
been in it, focusing in on marketing?
mm.
How has that changed over time and how has that affected how you've done business?
Yeah, so obviously thanks to you as well. We've gone through a massive journey with you to really help us to remodel our business or optimize our business model so that we're focusing on profit generating activities. Probably one
Mm.
of the things that growing up in a business family, my mum has always been hammering me on is that revenue is vanity and profit is sanity, right? So a
Hmm.
lot of
Yeah.
people they try to go after the top line so that they look really good, and then they can tell people that I run a $10 million business and whatnot, right? But at the end of the day, is the profits that's going to make a difference, right? So, in order for us to do that, a few things, right? So, obviously, in the marketing space, there's so many competitors. There's so many agencies out there doing paid advertising, social media, organic post, and building websites and whatnot, right? So, and for a long time, we find ourselves competing in that space, and we're always trying to match prices and do a better job in a delivery and whatnot. But we're still playing in the red ocean, if you will, right?
Mm.
And probably about 3, 4 years ago, we started to pivot into a consulting model, right? So when I go out there and talk to people now, I don't say that I run a marketing company or marketing agency. I tell them I run a marketing firm or consulting firm, right?
Mm.
Number one, we can charge much more than a bit. Well, thanks to StoryBrand, we're able to play that game because we
Yeah.
actually have a frame of reference that is repeatable and is proven to work that we can basically apply to many, if not most, situations. Right. And secondly, we're able to charge a premium on consulting work. And we can also choose to do consulting only or consulting plus the execution because a lot of companies
Mm.
out there or a lot of marketing agencies out there they use the strategy to pitch for agency work, right? But what we now have been able to do is to charge for consulting, and we know that is super valuable, even if they walk away trying to do it themselves, or they have already, because we tend to deal with more sizable companies, at least seven figure plus. That some most of them would have some internal resources already, or they're already working with
Mhm.
a bunch of other agencies and professionals and whatnot. So we can come in from a strategic level to really install a framework so that they can go off their races. We still get paid, or we can take over the whole lot. So that has been a
Mm.
massive change for us and for my sanity as well. I'm so proud to say that um, I don't run projects anymore. I've got an amazing team now, right, who does all the delivery and the projects and whatnot, where I can focus 100% of my energy in a client level, talking strategy and framework and implementation and whatnot. So that has been a massive shift.
Yeah. So in this podcast, we always talk a little bit about family. So how have you navigated building a business and raising a family. I know you've got three beautiful girls. Like, what's that been like, and how have you had to navigate that over the years?
Yeah, so you know what it's like. You've got two kids of your own. There's always a tension, a juggling act. I guess when you're a business owner, you're never off work, or so it is a juggling act. But I guess what I've really trained myself in the last probably 10 years is to switch off, basically, and
Mm,
that has been very helpful. And I philosophically, and I think coming from a sort of family of business people, is so natural for most of us to sacrifice family at the altar of business success, or we're just going to get through this project, or we're just
mm,
going to get through this quarter, or we're just going to make this sort of profit, and then I can go and enjoy family
mhm,
life. But next thing is too late, right, from a relationship point of view. So when I say I prioritize family, I really prioritize family. Like I do get comments sometimes that I'm probably a little bit over the top from how integrated my life is with family.
mhm,
And like I was in Sydney just 3 or 4 weeks ago. I had to meet a couple of companies, like really high level meetings, boardroom and suits and all that sort of stuff. I brought my 10-year-old with me, and she sat
mm,
through 2 days worth of really boring high level boardroom meetings. But that was the kind of lifestyle that I am willing and I am intentional about building. That, even if I don't anymore, but like some people would feel embarrassed or uncomfortable bringing a 10-year-old into a really high level meeting, but that's just the life that I've decided to live.
mm,
And from a family point of view, I'm now, we've got three kids, so 10, 11, 9, and 3. I'm definitely seeing some very positive fruit from a family life perspective. Does business take a hit sometimes? Yes, I'm not going to lie about that. But I guess it's just me trying to be really intentional and really lift the fact that when you're saying yes to something, you're also saying no to something else, right? So
mm.
obviously, we live in a world where we want to pretend that we can all multitask and we can work from home and have kids around us and be fully present at work and vice versa. It's just not the reality. So when I make a decision to say yes to my family, I know that I'll be saying no at work or opportunities or career opportunities, if you will. And that's the journey that I'm on.
Yeah, it's a difficult decision to make as well. Like when you know that you're saying yes to family and saying no to potential opportunities.
Mm,
It's not, and because there's always that tension of that feeling of providing for your family
mm,
and being that the provider, but then also at the same time being present with your family. And I think sometimes that tension between being a
absolutely.
provider and being present can really be a tension, and you're
Mm,
trying to really meet both at the same time, which is
yeah.
not always easy
Yeah.
to maintain.
There are probably two guiding principles that I always live by. One, I always think about at my deathbed. I'm not going to think about, oh, I missed that project and a potential earning of X amount, but I will be
Mhm,
thinking about the Sydney trip for the rest of my life, right? So that's probably something that I always think about when I'm trying to make decisions. And secondly, and this is not something that I can control, but I would hate it in my 50s and 60s, my kids would start resenting to their peers or even to ourselves, is that you spend all your time at work. When I was growing up and you were never present, you were blah blah. Like I would hate for my kids to come to that moment. Like, and obviously this is something that I can't completely control, but I would
mm,
love to just keep putting myself in a position where that doesn't happen.
yeah. What about from a perspective of how have you tried to be an example to your kids in the sense of being able to do business and with family as well? What's that look like for you?
Setting an example.
Yeah, like obviously there's obviously that element of having to work hard and to provide and
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. And even probably you've got three girls as well.
Mm,
So I guess in the sense of who they see in you is often
mm.
going to be who they're going to look for in a partner when they get older. So how have you tried to navigate that quite well and think about that from that perspective?
Yeah, so I think naturally work ethic is definitely built into our family, including my wife as well. She's probably an even
Mm,
harder worker than I am, to be honest. And it's just like this positive energy towards entrepreneurship and business,
mm,
because probably in a general middle class sort of day job kind of family, the conversation around business and earning money would be a little bit different. But whereas we try to instill the concept of making money is an honorable act, making a profit is an honorable act. If you make a profit through the means of business, is you're contributing. Like the backbone of our economy is actually small business. So
mm,
by starting and doing really well in business, you are actually becoming a responsible citizen of the world, right? So just
mm,
those, I guess those stigma, it's less and less nowadays, right? But those stigma around being a business owner, you're just the guy on top barking orders and you're making all the profits and all the people are working for your slaves. Like that's just that concept is just non-existent. And
mhm.
then like sometimes I share with my kids and my wife about the challenges that I have and the people dynamics that I have and whatnot. I don't know how much they take it in, but I guess the experience that I've had growing up, just being in that world and being like breathing and living and getting soaked in that world, I guess I'm trying to create that environment for my kids as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So looking back on the last 15 years of being in business, is there anything that you would do differently when you look back on it?
Yes. So I think, and this is probably a little bit of a politically incorrect thing to say, but I would really choose to what I would call get into bed with clients, if you will. Okay, this is probably coming across the wrong way, but I think I've got a natural tendency to build really deep friendship with a lot of people,
Mhm,
just based on my personality. And then when you get, especially in a consulting point of view, you're in the boardroom, they're telling you all of their secret recipes of the business and their aspirations and everything. And I tend to get very excited and sometimes emotional about their businesses. And then I want to get more
mhm,
involved. And then I started putting in the time that I shouldn't be putting in and putting in the effort that I shouldn't be putting in. And sometimes even investing in some of these things. And some of them have actually turned out really great from an investment point of view. But but I think I tend to, and you can attest to that as well, being on this journey,
mm,
when our business get in trouble, when some of our contracts get muddy and scope creep and all that sort of stuff, they 99.5% of the time come from the messy relationships that I've built with those clients. So so
mm.
again, just based on, I'm not saying this will apply to a lot of people, but based on my personalities and my tendency, I have now become much more
Mm.
transactional and clear and probably sometimes a little bit ruthless in drawing the line in the sand. And that's the one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in this 15-year journey.
Yeah, that's really good. It's something I've been thinking a lot about recently as well, is the difference in committing to deliverables and committing to results.
Mm,
Because I think in your industry, in the marketing industry as well, there's a lot of marketing on the results that will help you achieve. And
mm,
then when you don't hit those results, it can be quite difficult and challenging. And even though you've done all the right things and you've provided all the right deliverables, there might
mm,
be, well, for whatever reason, things haven't hit the mark. Or
mm,
in marketing
mm,
is very similar to with what I do in terms of strategy, is you kind of have to learn and
mm,
adjust constantly
mm,
until you really find that momentum builder. But like you
mm,
said, it's quite challenging when you overinvest emotionally into whether it's a client or because you want them to succeed. And then all of a sudden, you're kind of carrying this weight of responsibility
yeah,
that's probably
yeah,
beyond what they even expect from you. Or sometimes
absolutely.
you promise more than what they probably initially wanted, but then now you've
Yeah,
created an expectation and you've got to kind of
yeah,
maintain that, which is really
yeah.
challenging.
And when you think about like probably most of the emotional roller coasters that I've gone through in especially in the last 2 or 3 years are clients related, like are basically over promises that I've made or overhyped propositions that I've got myself into. This just gets really messy. And when you really think about it, like they're just clients. You're not like you shouldn't be this emotional about this kind of stuff. So I think it's been a character building journey. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think that's probably something I think that would be a good conversation, maybe in a more in depth conversation for another day,
Absolutely.
because I think it's
Feel like
important.
it's
Like
therapy time, right?
yeah, man. Well, it's funny because I think in business, we kind of talk about customer service and making sure you get results for clients, and all of that stuff is true. But I know that for myself, there's a lot of emotion that goes into your client's success that
Mm.
can become unhealthy
Yep.
as well.
Yeah.
And that's where that balance has got to come, right? Where you're still committing to help them and to achieve their goals and to serve them as
Mm.
best that you can.
Mm.
But then when your almost self-worth
Yeah.
is determined by the results of your client, it
100%.
can become quite an unhealthy, toxic relationship
Oh yeah,
at that point as
100%.
well.
100%. Well, two things, right? I think when you get emotional, you start making stupid decisions. And your job or my job as a consultant is to help your clients to make as many wise, informed decisions as possible. So by getting
Mm.
emotional, you're actually becoming part of the problem, right?
So now you've built your business, C Sharp Group, and you're obviously more of a consulting firm, and then obviously with some agency services in the background to kind of help with the execution. So, what does the next stage of C Sharp Group look like moving forward?
Yeah, sure. I just remembered my last point. I'm just going to finish on that point, right?
Okay.
And this will come to how you talk to the client or educate a client as well, right? I always say to my clients now that no one can control results. It's almost like I actually compare marketing a lot to investing. Let's say investing in stock, right? Like you can go and do all
Mhm.
your research in property and shares and everything, but you actually can't control what the market does, right? So all that we can
Mhm.
do is to, based on a strategy, come up with campaigns and ads and landing pages and whatnot, and throw it out in the market, put them in positions of getting eyeballs and impressions and whatnot, and really let the market inform us what works and what doesn't work. Right.
Yeah.
So I think the stigma in marketing and maybe in business consulting as well is you're just going to deploy this one thing and then everything's going to go up, right? You're going to become a trillionaire by tomorrow by just using this ad, right? It doesn't happen in
Mhm.
real world. I wish everyone in business understands that digital marketing is not the magic bullet. You just need to keep testing and keep being patient to finally find something that works, and then you double down on it. So I think a lot of people
Mm.
can't get over that concept and then be like, okay, I'm hiring you guys, I'm paying you the big bucks, and what's the ROI? I don't know what's the ROI. I can make some assumptions, but we're in this
Mm.
together and we're testing the market together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about some of the big guys like Russell Brunson and all that kind of stuff with the one funnel away kind of pitch where it's like, hey, one funnel away and you'll be a millionaire almost kind of
Yeah.
messaging? How do you see that and with what they're pitching?
Well, first and foremost, I'm not saying there are not unicorns out there, and I have seen or actually deployed some strategies for our client that have the unicorn effect. Just one campaign, everything went
Mhm.
gangbusters, right? But that only happens 1% of the time. But if you're a wise business owner, and especially when you get to a certain stage where you've got multiple runs on a board, you've actually got a proven product at the back of a lot of failures, you actually would be mature enough to understand that it's a game of probability. If you're investing all your resources and everything into a 1% chance of success, then it's probably not the best decision that you can make, right? So again, I'm not saying those things don't work. They do work, but all the stuff, you need to have the right product. You need to have a compelling offer. Your business needs to have certain branding. It's not like if you start a drop shipping thing in the bedroom and then you deploy this thing next week, chances are you only got a 1% chance for success, right? So again,
Mm.
I most of those things work conceptually, but you need all the stars to line up from a business model point of view to make it work. Another thing that I wanted to say, which is, so obviously we do some business together with you, Dan, and I see this as a bit of a 1-2 punch, right? I always say to our clients that you can't clarify your message if you don't have a clear business model, right? Or you don't
Yeah.
have a proven product. So a lot of companies come to us with a half-baked product or a subpar product or a really inferior product and go, hey, market this and give me XYZ result, right? I would always encourage them to go back to a drawing board and work with maybe someone like yourself to really work out what their business model is. How can they go about packaging their products and services into something that is a little bit more attractive? And then we can
Mm.
start running the marketing machine to try and make it work. So again, a lot of things need to work in alignment in order for you to achieve a level of marketing success.
Yeah, no, that's good because it's if you're just selling a service that everyone's selling with no unique perspective or unique kind of angle, it's
Mm.
going to be pretty hard because you're just fighting and just kind of saying the same thing that everyone else is saying. But I
Yep.
think, like you said, if you've got a great business model that has a bit of a unique perspective and twist on it, it makes it so much easier to really kind of build out that kind of brand and marketing channels.
100%.
Yeah, great. So you've built C Sharp Group as a marketing consultancy now. You've kind of grown to have quite a large team that allows you to do agency services in terms of the execution of some of those strategies. So
Mhm.
what's next for C Sharp Group and what they're going to do next?
Yeah, so obviously we need to continue to solidify our business model to well the next really from a as a business owner it's all about profitability for us now. We know that we've got a model and an operation that actually works. Obviously, we need to feel sales becomes my priority and but
Hmm.
from an executive team point of view, so between me and two other business partners, profitability becomes our priority. We want to be a business that stays lean. So I never aspire to have a fancy office with 100 people working in and then it looks like an empire and whatnot. We want to stay lean. Everyone's highly paid. We work with highly valued clients for the long term. And from a financial point of view, we want to go for massive, well, really healthy profits so that we can deploy that money into investments going forward. So aspiration for us is to build C Sharp into a cash cow so that we can take the cash out and go and invest into assets for wealth building going forward.
Yeah, great. So last question for the person that is, I guess, going through that wilderness of trying to figure out their products, trying to figure out their marketing. They've got sales, but they're not quite across the line of momentum yet. What would
Mm.
be the one piece of advice that you would give to them in this season?
Two things come to mind, one short term, one long term. One, find a way to launch a sales funnel to And when I say a sales funnel, the primary goal of a sales funnel is to collect email addresses and sometimes phone numbers at scale into your database. I know we can do all fancy things on social media and all that sort of stuff, right? But your biggest marketing asset is your email database. When you think about it, let's say you've got 50,000 people sitting on your database, you can send them an email or an ad and whatnot every single week without costing you a dollar, right? Versus spending a 5 grand a month on Google AdWords and whatnot, right? And you can sell to them anytime as long as you have a compelling offer. You can communicate to them without any ad policy, and it costs you next to nothing to retain and manage that database, right? And when you like for the people who are a little bit more advanced out there, when you get into business acquisition and selling your business and whatnot, there is actually a financial value you can put on based on the size of your database. If you sell your business,
Mm,
you tell the buyer, I've got 10,000 people sitting on my database versus 50,000 people sitting on your Instagram, your database is definitely going to be much more valuable compared to any sort of social
mm,
followings that you have. So launch a
yeah.
sales funnel with a compelling offer to collect email addresses at scale. And then the second thing, which is a little bit more long-term approach, is to really have a content strategy and be really extremely consistent about it. Right. And I don't do it perfectly as well, but consistency is the key for content. Don't spend 3 months and 10 grand to try and execute the perfect drone shot video, eye candy, and everything. Put that effort into weekly, if not daily, content that you will be putting out either through email marketing, social media, newsletters, and whatnot, to keep building and retaining that audience to stay front of mind one thing that I always say to my clients is you can't control when people are ready to buy products. They will have all the excuses, don't have the money, don't have the time, don't have the energy, whatever. But when they're ultimately ready to buy, and if you're in front of them on a daily, weekly, monthly point of view, you become top of mind and you become the first person that they would call. So, short term, launch a
Mm.
sales funnel, collect email addresses at scale. And secondly, get really consistent in content marketing.
Great. Awesome, Alex. Well, it's been such a great honor to have you on the podcast today. And we appreciate your thoughts and your insights into marketing. And I'm sure we'll get to do this again soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Love your work, Dan.
Thanks, Alex.